Welcome to the SMotsch Pit. This is my starting broadcast. My name is Sean Motsch, and this podcast is going to be talking about whatever I want, specifically about space, cryptids, mythology, and a bunch of other things. But today we're going to be talking about some news about astronomy and news that's space related. And I want to introduce a guest that I have today, Zach Nagy, one of my dearest friends.
Thanks, buddy, old pal. My name's Zach Nagy, as he said. I have a very nice interest in space. I love space. I went to Kennedy Space Center down in Merritt Island in South Florida when I visited in August. So hopefully we'll get to bring that up a little bit. I don't have an extensive knowledge of space, as Mr. Motsch here does, but I hope to learn through this lovely podcast and whatever else we decide to talk about, whether it is mythology or cryptids, or I don't even know what cryptids are, so I can't wait to learn all about those. And so I'll let you take it away. That's my little self-introduction.
Yeah, basically what this is supposed to be is just like kind of like a oddities podcast. Like, I guess a little bit of inspiration is from, I'm trying to remember what it's called. It's like this one podcast that I'm trying to remember.
I have no idea.
But, yeah, it's like one of those podcasts that talks about oddities and extraterrestrials and paranormal stuff. So I might get into paranormal stuff, even though I don't know much about that. But
Right. Well, Sean, I have a question for you. If we do talk about paranormal, would it be interesting to get the opposing view, which is mine, because I don't believe in paranormal stuff?
Oh,
or?
yeah.
Okay, cool.
Why
Well,
not?
if we talk about that, then I'll definitely be sharing my opinion. Of course, it'll be a civil discourse because we're good buddies, and I don't hate you and your opinions, even though we have really differing opinions.
Yeah,
And I think it's
honestly,
great.
like, people's, like, different opinions, like, don't bother me.
That's good, and I respect that, and I appreciate that, and this is why we can have conversations like this. Anyway, you take it
Okay.
away, buddy.
All right, so I first wanted to talk about one of the most recent things in news for astronomy, and this was posted on, this is from astronomy.com, and it was published, this article was published on Thursday, which is today, and it's actually the 50th anniversary of Apollo 7. And that is when Apollo 1 crew members Roger Chaffee, Ed White. Well, the beginning of the article is talking about on January 27, 1967, Apollo 1 crew members Roger, Ed White, and Gus Grissom were killed in the fire of a test of a spacecraft. And actually, 21 months later, 3 men who had originally served as their backup crew, which is Walter Sierra Jr., Don Assel, and Walter Cunningham, flew on Apollo 7. And I think Apollo 7 launched on October 11th, 1968.
Well, that is today, so that should be, if it's the 50th anniversary, then it definitely should have been October 11th, so that sounds right.
But from what it's telling me here, their mission was a resounding success, speeding the Apollo program ahead to reach the moon by the end of the decade. And Apollo 7 launched from Cape Kennedy, Florida. On board was the 3-man crew, and they remained in orbit for 10 days, 20 hours, before splashing down back to the Earth on October 22nd. And the mission aimed to achieve several objectives, including demonstration of successful crew mission support and spacecraft capabilities in preparation for manned missions to the moon. So yeah, it's pretty interesting stuff.
Right, so that was Apollo 7. What year was that? So that was before, so correct me if I'm wrong, Apollo 9 was Armstrong and Aldrin, right?
That was Apollo 11.
Oh, the 11? Okay, yeah, I knew I was wrong somewhere. So that was in 69, correct, 11?
I believe it's, yeah, they landed on the moon in 1969, I believe.
Yeah. So when was Apollo 7? What year was that? I didn't quite catch that. I'm sorry.
So the first Apollo mission, started on January 27th, 1967, and actually killed all the members.
Right. Yeah. Apollo 1. Yeah.
And had a backup crew.
Yeah.
And basically it didn't work. It killed everybody on board, is what I'm getting from this article. But 20 months later, they actually, the next year, in 1968, was Apollo 7, and yeah, that was like their first manned mission actually since the incident. So.
All right. Yeah, that's super interesting. So correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know I don't know if this is accurate, but was every Apollo mission carried out by the Saturn V rocket?
I'm not exactly sure about that.
Because I remember when I went to the Saturn V complex and got the tour, talked to people, they said that the Saturn V brought everyone who went to the moon. Like that was the rocket that brought them to the moon. But Apollo 7 didn't go to the moon. So I wonder if that was the Saturn V or not.
Well, I have something up here about the Saturn V, and it was basically the rocket was used between 1967 and 1973. So if we're looking at Apollo 1, I'd say they used a different spacecraft if it blew up and it failed.
Right.
So, I mean, I guess it wasn't used for every mission.
Right, yeah. It must not have been then.
But I guess it was for the farther trips that they actually expected to get to the moon.
Right. Well, what's really cool about the Saturn V, and I'm sure you already know this, but for anyone out there who doesn't, it's the most powerful rocket that has ever existed. Now, it's not currently in use. The Falcon Heavy is the current most powerful in use that is operable, but the Saturn V is, I mean, just ginormous compared to the Falcon Heavy. I mean, you really got to see it one of these days. It is impressive. It is incredible. They have it. I showed you the pictures, but I'll have to send these to Gabe so he can put them up on the video feed here. But the Saturn V, I'm using my hands to demonstrate. No one can see this but Sean and Gabe. But it's horizontal. It is actually, you know what? You can draw this out. Yeah, you've got the iPad.
All right.
You want me to do it? And then, so here, actually,
isn't it like connected to the wall or is
here? Yeah, I got this.
Is it just charging?
It's just charging. All right,
Okay, so
here, let me steal that for a second. I'll sort of sketch it out here in a crude way. So you walk in to the Saturn V Center, and I'll sort of give perspective here. Let's see for perspective.
And the thing is with you going to the Kennedy Space Center, I was actually I was probably like the most jealous person that you were sending the photos to, because I've always wanted to go to Kennedy Space Center all throughout, like since I've known about it.
Oh yeah, I mean,
since I was a kid.
I'm completely messing this up here. Give me one sec.
And did you watch a rocket launch by chance?
So the what was it? The Parker? No, the Albert? No, was it Parker? The Parker Solar Probe? What was it? Something Solar Probe. I cannot remember.
Was it a SpaceX thing?
No. So the Solar Probe, I believe, was United Launch Alliance or NASA, one of the two. But that, I didn't get to see it. It happened a couple nights before I went there. And then 4 days after I had left, there was another launch. I didn't get to see either of them. But I did get to see the VAB, the Vehicle Assembly Bay. I got to see the two platforms that SpaceX and NASA and ULA uses. I got to see SpaceX's facility, which they're leasing out for 20 years. What's interesting is NASA, and I believe United Launch Alliance, they build all their rockets vertically, but SpaceX builds them horizontally. And what's really neat about that is to launch a rocket, it needs to be vertical. So they have this special device. I don't know what it's called, but it uprights the rocket. So they'll take it out, laying on its side out to the platform, and then right before they get it ready to take off, they have this giant white. It looks kind of like a bus, but it's this crane that'll lift up the rocket. So I just always found it interesting that SpaceX builds theirs sideways, because their building isn't not nearly as tall as the Vehicle Assembly Bay. Let's see here. Okay, so for perspective, here is, I'm going to show you there. That little circle is about the average height of a person, right?
All right.
So we're going to grab a nice thick boy here. I think this is a good thick boy. Or is this a highlighter? Whatever. Saturn V was about
Wow.
that high above, and let's see if I can sort of demonstrate how ridiculously I mean, it was just, ooh, there we go. Sort of. Think of this in terms of thickness. I mean, it was just from that line, all the way up to the top of the screen. It was just massive. This is a very...
Yeah, it's a very weird tool.
Yeah. But in terms of perspective, that's the average person. It was a couple stories above your head. And what's really neat is if you go through the movies that they show you, the first thing you see when you walk out is the first stage's engines. And they're just in your face. They're huge. You walk out, you look up, and it's just this immense, incredible rocket that, hasn't been used since the 70s. It's incredible that everyone that has been to the moon went on that rocket. It's just, and that they have it there sitting in this building in the middle of nowhere almost, because Merritt Island, where Kennedy Space Center is actually a wildlife refuge, which has been around longer than the Space Center itself. There are, what was it? There are more eagle nests at the Kennedy Space Center than there are launch pads.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And the closest thing to Kennedy Space Center I've been to is the Space and Air Museum in Washington. I believe it's in Washington.
The Smithsonian?
Yeah. Honestly, it is really cool. That is one of the coolest places probably the coolest place I've been to. I suggest everyone to go there at some point.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think the thing that I loved seeing at first was, well, the thing that I will remember is I think they had a model of Amelia Earhart's plane, which was pretty awesome. But just seeing the perspective of how big things are, and the thing is with the Smithsonian, just like seeing the size of things is completely ridiculous. Like, I'm getting like sidetracked, but like seeing like the full size of like dinosaur bones is really crazy, because that's where you actually see the best of it, is the Smithsonian, where you see the full scale dinosaurs where they have all the bones from one dinosaur.
The Smithsonian should sponsor us, because we have a lot of good things to say about the Smithsonian. I've actually been there too, back in 2010. If I remember correctly, I don't know if it's the exact plane, but it's either that or a model of the Wright brothers' first plane that they flew in Kitty Hawk. That was pretty incredible to see that and the scale of that, and just you make a good point with how seeing things and how big they are, and it's not the same as a photograph, right?
Yeah, like you see it on the internet and in books for years until you see it in real life, and it's like just breathtaking.
Oh yeah,
and it's actually there in front of you.
Mm-hmm. Went back to Kennedy. One of the other things we got to see was Space Shuttle Atlantis, and when you go to that, everything they sort of hype it up with a movie, and at the Atlantis portion of it, it has its own building, and you go inside and you wait in line, and they let you into the movie portion, and you stand in this. There are two sections. There are two rooms. You go into the first room and you sit down and you watch a kind of a cruddy document, like a mockumentary about it. But then the second room, you go in. It is it's hard to describe, but think of it like a big cylinder, like a half cylinder, and there are, I believe it was 4 or 5 screens layered, so it was like screen, ceiling, screen, ceiling, screen, and then just one huge screen in front, and they use that to make the illusion of being inside the shuttle. And so it goes through this really cool CGI, and there's, shuttle, whatever. And then at the very end, so there are 2 projector curtains. They lift up the back one, which is the thick one, and behind that is the actual Space Shuttle Atlantis, and then in front of it was they show the the CGI version of it, and then they lift the curtain, and then right there in the exact same sort of position is the actual space shuttle. And it was just it's difficult to explain. You really have to see it, but it's just absolutely remarkable to stand in this room and then have the one of the walls just lift up, and behind that is this space shuttle that, I mean, it's incredible. It's, you go in, and what's great about what I love about the space shuttles is they're just space planes, and they get landed like regular planes. I mean, they're remarkable. I mean,
aren't they the ones that go up into orbit for a short time and then they just come back down and land? They just go to an extreme height. They go above the atmosphere.
Yeah, they go into low Earth orbit, and some of them had gone to I believe some of them had gone to the ISS. But what they have is, what's cool is the back of the plane, the hull of the plane will open up, and I don't know exactly what they had back there, but I'm sure it was tools or whatever they needed. And there's this really interesting video. I don't recall who it's by, but it's how to land the space shuttle. And this guy goes into crazy detail on what they had to do to land it, because it goes up like a rocket, right? It has their
every piece had to go up individually, and they had to get everything put together when they were up there.
It's so it has the big orange tank, the fuel tank, and then the actual space plane. And the orange fuel tank goes out in 7 minutes. Now that fuel tank is the size of a mid-rise building. It is huge, and it empties in 7 minutes. And so,
jeez.
Yeah, and they'll jettison
Now
that.
we realize why we're not going anywhere in space. This is why we haven't made it outside of our solar system.
Yeah.
You want to know how much gas is, how much gas
How much
is?
fuel and money that goes into this.
I mean, I wonder if we're gonna get past the point where we stop using gasoline. If there's gonna be something discovered where we could push things without gas.
Right, some way to propel them in a different way. But back to the space shuttle. I'll sort of quit this tangent here in a sec, but I want to wrap it up. So it would go up as a rocket, and you would have the giant orange fuel tank, which would empty in, I believe it was 7 or 8 minutes. They would jettison that, and then they would parachute it down, and it's actually standing outside of the building. It's incredible, and you go inside, and then you see the shuttle itself. So then the shuttle has its own boosters, and it uses that to get into low Earth orbit, and so it goes up like a rocket. But when they land it, it lands like a plane. So they have to go to, I believe it's Edwards Air Force Base in California, where it's like a 3-mile runway, and it is, I believe, the most level road in the world. It is perfectly level for 3 miles. And so they come down at 300 miles an hour. It's incredible. And there's some really cool videos on that during the last one, which was in 2011, 2009, quite a while ago. The last shuttle landing, and then they pull a chute, and then they slow it down. But it's just crazy that it goes up like a rocket, comes down like a plane, and then to take it from Edwards Air Force Base back to Florida, back to Kennedy, they put it on a modified Boeing 747, and then it detaches midair and glides back. I mean, it's the craziest shit you've ever seen. I mean, it's incredible. Another quick piece of information about the shuttle is at Kennedy they have a crawler, which is this giant machine with, if I can recall correctly, 8 treadmills on it. So think of the tank treadmills, but the size of a tank, each treadmill. They're huge, they're gigantic. And then on top of that, it's difficult to picture unless you see it, but on top of that is where the rockets sit when it launches, the launch pads. So the crawler will move it across Kennedy Space Center to wherever it needs to be, to whatever launch pad they want it at. And but what's cool is each launch pad is specially built for whatever rocket is going off of it. So the space shuttles have special holes in their launch pad, whereas something like the Saturn V doesn't need. So each launch pad is specified for specific rockets, and it's incredible. The crawler is so heavy that the road that it uses is special rock that won't spark, because if it sparks, that could cause they're rockets. It could be bad. And so, I mean, it's just down to the very little detail of what road it moves on is how. I mean, we've got some really smart people at NASA, and it's incredible. It's awesome. I'm gonna stop going on my tangent now. I'm gonna give it back to you.
Oh, it's all right. It's fine. I like listening to Zach talk quite a bit because he's a smart dude.
Thank you. That's right.
But yeah, I'm trying to remember what I was gonna say. It was sorry, I got sidetracked. It was
No, it's all right.
I was I remember when we were talking about when we were talking about the Apollo missions or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know the one thing that people do to make me frustrated, Zach?
What's that?
They come up to me and tell me the moon landing's fake, and it makes me very, very frustrated.
Pisses me off too. So.
Like literally, you could say anything to me, and I won't get upset. But if you say that to me, that will genuinely make me frustrated with you.
I agree 100%. I mean, there are a lot of things that people can call fake, but the minute you attack the moon landing, you attack my pride as a United States citizen. and I know that sounds dramatic, but the moon landing, I mean,
it's like the most patriotic thing we've ever done.
That is the biggest achievement of any nation on this planet.
It's not just of any nation. It's like the biggest
of
achievement.
Humankind.
Yeah, of humanity.
Yeah.
It's like, seriously, if you're discrediting like the best thing we've ever done as a
Right.
species,
I mean,
what the hell?
Yeah, what is wrong with you? I mean, just imagine the kids who grew up and watched that on TV, and who are now. I mean, they're obviously now your parents.
I can tell you how many times I've watched it.
But imagine being able to watch that live. Imagine what sense of pride you had as an American then, especially during the Cold War.
Oh, I'd be crying, man.
Oh, I'd probably be crying too. Like it is just such a remarkable feat of humankind. And then we took that and then we made it even cooler. We got the ISS up and running after Skylab didn't work out so hot. And I mean, it's just incredible. We have people in space right now conducting science experiments and posting cool shit on Twitter. Like that is what we are as humans right now. We have people in low Earth orbit just doing some cool shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's awesome.
And yeah, we have like all these people doing great things. We have people in the International Space Station, but you have like people on Earth saying how the Earth is flat.
Oh,
It's like,
if I hear another person tell me the Earth is flat, oh my God. Gabe, I'm gonna beat you. Listen, the flat Earth thing really ticks me off because
it's like you have so much proof. I mean, if you've been in a plane,
okay, when ancient Greeks could prove that the Earth was round with shadows, what is your problem that you live in a society today where you feel you can't trust anything so much that you just want to think the Earth is flat? Like, you got to be like next level stupid you got to be a kind of person that tries to help a car across the street. Like, you just got to be like real low in your IQ points to think that the Earth is flat. And now I've never met anyone in real life who's genuinely told me that, right? But with the great thing of the internet and anonymity and the way people are is on the internet, people feel emboldened to say whatever they want, like we are right now. No one's seeing my face while I say this. Maybe if I was in person, I wouldn't tell a flat tard that they're a flat tard. But I just, you live in a society today where we have information in our pockets 24/7, and you can't fathom the roundness of the Earth. I mean, it would, like, even not to disprove it, because it's stupid to try and disprove a flat Earth theory because you can't disprove something that isn't proven yet.
If something was proved like more than 2,000 years ago,
yeah,
and like we've advanced like 2,000 years, I'm pretty sure it's true.
See, but one of the things is one of the great. I don't know if you've seen Vsauce's video.
Oh yeah, I love Michael.
I love my.
he's
hey,
a
Vsauce.
smart guy.
Michael here.
But
one thing I wanted to bring up was the fact that one thing that he said that was really great was, if anything is flat or a disk in space, it would naturally crumble into itself because of gravity. And then the flat earthers go ahead and say that there is no gravity. And then I just it boggles my mind.
It's the only way to keep their argument honest. The thing is, you have, it doesn't, with the flat earthers, it doesn't make any sense to me because, you have these orbits and everything. You have, the main thing is you have all these things throughout the years. You have Galileo, the Galilean model, I think is what it's called. You have the heliocentric model. Like that's the same thing, right? It's the same subject.
Right.
It's like you have all these things trying to prove like what's orbiting, like if we're orbiting around the sun or the sun's orbiting around us.
Right.
We have all this stuff going on. If we've figured that out too, I mean, like it's obvious that the Earth is round.
Right.
Because the thing is with a round object, like I don't like everything has a gravitational pull, but like a disc or something that's flat, I don't think makes sense because it wouldn't have that much of an orbit at all.
In space, it wouldn't, just because of how gravity works, it would crumble into itself and it would naturally form a sphere.
Yeah, and like how would they explain the sun too? Is that flat too or something?
They say that that's a spotlight. It's a spotlight sun, right? Because if you have a flat Earth, yeah, I know it's stupid, Sean. It's dumb. You want to draw? Okay, so here's the. Hold on. Here's. With that? Okay. This? Okay. Okay, so
Gabe's trying to help us with the iPad drawing.
Yeah, the iPad drawing is a little difficult for us, but that's okay. Okay. You have a mic too? You want to join in?
No, I'm good actually.
Okay. So I'm gonna
You
just.
can actually.
I'm
Gabe can join in if he wants.
I would
to.
love for.
But I enjoy watching listening.
So I'm just
like
gonna really
political.
quickly. So here's the flat Earth, and
Hold on, let me see it for a second.
well, the sun. Well, here's the thing: is that
you got to add some detail. You got to
okay,
add.
okay,
I want to see it.
I got you. So let's go ahead and get
Do
some
green.
Yeah, let's get some
There you
green in
go.
here. Let's get a little.
Do the pencil.
Yeah,
There you
let's go. Let's get a little. It's not going to be accurate to human continents, but that's okay.
No, why doesn't humanity just accept the world's a triangle?
Now you're talking. Triangle is the strongest shape in the history of the world. So anyway, this is my incredibly geographically inaccurate
It
Earth.
actually looks like Earth. It's pretty nice.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate your support in my endeavors. Can I just fill? Is there a fill tool? No. Well, this is stupid. This is stupid. This is really stupid, Gabe. There we go. There we go. We're gonna just paint the. We're just gonna paint this here. Oh, this has just become a Bob Ross podcast. You're gonna make pretty continents.
This is
Pretty-
relaxing.
Pretty continents. And then don't forget the. Don't forget the
Oh,
water
you got
there.
the water.
The ocean, because that's.
That's
know.
actually really nice.
This is. I've never created such a nice Earth before, guys. It's truly artistic. I think we should use this as the cover photo. Anyway, so here's the flat Earth. Oh my god. Well, no, space doesn't exist in the flat Earth. Right. Sorry. Yeah, so we actually got to get rid of this. You heathen! How dare you?
Oh, this is really entertaining.
How dare you? Okay, so anyway, back to what I was saying. They believe that the sun is a spotlight, and so I guess the best way I can do this is deface my beautiful Earth here. And so here's sort of what that spotlight would look like here. And so what they think is that the sun here can actually, let's go ahead and change this here. Let's go ahead and use this one. The sun here can actually move around the planet like a spotlight, right? So like you're on stage and the spotlight's following you.
So it's basically like if I took like a lamp or a flashlight and I shined it at my face as I rotated around it.
No, there's no rotation because it's not a sphere, remember?
Okay, well,
Yeah, so the
none of
spotlight-
this makes sense.
Because it's not real, Sean. And that is the flat Earth model.
I'd
So
love for a flat earther to come in here
We should
against
have-
me
yes.
and you, Zach.
we should debate a flat earther, Sean.
I actually saw this video, this flat earther coming up to this guy that works for NASA and just confronting him.
You know,
And it's like,
you
this
gotta have
dude,
a lot of
and
faith
they're
in what
in
you
s-
believe in.
They're in Starbucks, and this NASA worker is just trying to get his damn coffee.
Right.
It's like, you gotta stop killing people. blah, blah, blah. It's like, you gotta stop lying to the entire population.
One of my favorite things about the whole fake moon landing thing, this ties into the flat earther in my mind because they're both equally ridiculous. But one of the things that I always love is when they say that Stanley Kubrick directed the fake moon landing. And I have enough respect for Kubrick as a director to think that he wouldn't do something as stupid. But here's the thing. Even if, hypothetically, the U.S. government were to fake the moon landing, right? Just to win the Cold War, the space race, right? Didn't win the Cold War, but it won the space race. How would they keep it a secret for the last
60
years? 60 years. How? It doesn't make sense. You know how many things that they can't keep secret that are much worse than a fake moon landing? Like torture, but that's irrelevant. Well, Brett Cowan, we'll talk about him on my podcast. Brett Cowan has it.
You know, you want to know something really funny about the moon landing is like everyone says this argument, well, it's fake because the flag is moving. Well, it's going to move while you're planting it.
Man, people, okay.
It's like waving in the wind. It's waving because they freaking had to use strength and just stab it into the ground because they had this. Well, I don't know if it's resistance, but it's like
there's an explanation.
You have to, you know, if you imagine yourself in space, you're just like having to like stab it like down, you know, and it feels like you have resistance because it's like different.
Well, don't forget the moon still has gravity and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, it does have a gravity.
But anyway, I digress. I think we should move on to another topic because we're just heated about flat earthers and there's no one here to debate us, so there isn't much of a debate happening.
And people that think the moon landing is fake.
Right, those guys. Okay, those two groups of people, and I say this with the utmost respect to humans, can die. They can go into a pit and they can be burned alive because they shouldn't exist on the same mortal plane as us. But anyway, is there anything?
Brutal.
Is there any other topic you'd like to hit today, Sean? Because you wanna take a break, Gabe? Gabe wants to take a break. Do you wanna take a break?
Yeah. Let's just take a little bit.
Take a little break, recoup.
I don't deserve it.
It's going. That was
All
a good
right.
countdown.
Is it going?
Yeah, it's going.
All right. Welcome back to the SMotsch Pit. We just came back from break, and I kind of wanted to talk about a different topic. Kind of wanted to bring up the topic of extraterrestrials with Zach and what his opinion on it was. And I have some stories about it. But one of the things that made me want to bring this up is, you know, with us talking about the flat earthers, the people that don't believe in the moon landing, people don't believe in what we've done. There are a lot of people that don't believe that life is out there particularly. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, I know the chances are slim. Like, I know it's, like, really slim for it to be in the Milky Way. But, you know, there's a lot of people that deny that there's actual life in the entire universe. And the thing that makes me deny that is we're here. And that was, you know, like, we're humanoid beings, we're humans, right. And, you know...
Conscious, bipeds, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, so what's your opinion? What's your belief?
So...
And why do you believe in it exactly?
So I'm going to sort of give a little preface here. I'm in agreement... Oh, Gabe just had an epiphany over there. So I would tend to agree with Sean in the sense that... if there is life here, then there must be life elsewhere. But where I tend to draw the line is where it goes from possible science to science fiction, where crop circles and UFOs, and I tend to think a lot of that is bullshit. But I tend to think that there has to be life out there somewhere, right? Whether it even is as small as a microorganism living in a pool of water on some distant planet, that's still life. And I think it'd be incredibly remarkable to see that life anywhere, even if it isn't sentient or intelligent or they have legs or walk. You know, it doesn't matter. Life is life. I mean, even if it's just a plant, you know, that'd be incredible. So where I kind of stand on that is the whole extraterrestrial encounters and all that. I mean, it's never happened to me. And I'm the kind of guy who likes evidence and stuff to support that and facts, and I'm a very skeptical person, especially when it comes to things you see on the internet. But with how big the universe is, there really is no explanation for everything as of right now. And we don't know everything. And I can't sit here and tell you I know everything because I don't. But I don't believe that there are beings in our region of space that are more intelligent than us. And if there are, they're not watching us, and they're not. I don't. This is just my opinion, and they're not going to abduct any cows anytime soon. But there definitely, most positively, may be some microorganisms on Mars somewhere, or something just absolutely an astounding scientific discovery in our solar system or in our galaxy. But I don't think there are civilizations in our... Well, there very well may be civilizations in our galaxy that we don't know of. But if it is, I don't think that they're at a level where they can come to us and see us. One other thing I want to bring up before we move on with this conversation is the idea of space-time and how insignificant we are in the scale of that. What I'm getting at here is life may have existed on other planets billions of years ago that was as knowledgeable as us, if not more or less. So, and how do we know that did or did not, or that in a billion years there will be life on some other planet, or that there is right now? Space is just so big and hard to think about in the scale of time, because we've only been on this planet for X amount of years that we can recall, and written history only goes so far back. So for humans, it's difficult to fathom something that is billions of years old, like a city on some distant planet out there. It's possible. It's very possible. But they could be extinct right now, or anything. I mean, it could be a number of things. Planet ending, all life-ending catastrophes happen all the time in space, because space is harsh. Something could collide with Earth right now, and we could all die. There's nothing we could do about it. So, does life exist out there? I think it's very possible, and I think that there definitely could be. But is it something like you see in the movies, or something like some people will talk about? I don't think so, but that's just my opinion.
All right. So, I really appreciate you telling me your opinion.
I appreciate giving it to you. I like giving you my opinion, Sean.
And the thing is, I'm like a lot of the opposite. Like, I do believe in aliens, but I believe it to the extent where it's going to the realm of crazy.
Sci-fi, right?
Yeah, I actually believe in humanoids, UFOs, all that. I believe that and the reason why I believe in this is not just because I'm making guesses, not because I watch TV shows. I don't even watch, like, that many TV shows about UFOs. Like, I've seen a few here and there. They're pretty interesting. Like, I watch this, there's, like, this one show on Netflix called UFOs Caught on Tape. And it's just stuff that was, like, recorded in the 80s, 90s. Like, VHS type videos that are kind of hard to fake, unless it's, like, high production value. But, anyways, I'm like one of these people where I've seen specific things, and I've had specific experiences that I can't even comprehend completely. But for example, with UFOs, I've seen my fair share, but I remember we were hanging out once, and I don't think you did see it. But I feel like if you did see what me and Tristan saw that night, you would have believed it. But it was, me and Zach were on the mountain here in Casper. And it was also my buddy Tristan too. Me and Tristan were stargazing, looking around. I'm usually looking up at the sky 24/7 at nights because, I love astronomy. That's why I'm doing this podcast. It's one of the reasons why I'm doing this podcast. But to not get sidetracked, Tristan saw this object before I did. He said it looked like a blue version of Mars was darting around the sky. It was as bright as Mars, but it looked blue. And, if you usually see Mars, it's like this orange spot. It looks a little bit bigger than a star, like a normal planet would look. Yeah. Just pretty bright. And and Mars has been significantly bright for the past like few months. I don't know why, but anyways, Tristan was seeing it dart around, and as soon as I saw it, I turned around and I saw this object, but it wasn't the blue version of Mars. It was like a blue fireball, and it was just crazy, and it exploded into this. It just lit up the sky, and how I can describe it is it was just gone after that. Like we couldn't see anything except for this like slit in the sky. Like it looks like if you take, for example, like this is how I explain it to people. If you open a brand new thing of like butter or like imagine if you buy a brand new thing of butter or margarine or whatever you eat. You unwrap it, take a knife, and you just slice it through the middle carefully. That's what it looked like, just this straight cut. And so Tristan saw it too, so I wasn't hallucinating. It was actually there. And it was just one of the craziest thing I've ever seen.
So I do recall that night, and I do recall seeing something, not to that extent. Mind you, I wasn't paying as much attention as you guys were. I was also stargazing a bit, but so what I recall seeing was out of the corner of my eye what looked like a shooting star, right? But that was, again, I wasn't paying as much attention as you guys were. I also don't recall seeing a slit, but again, wasn't paying as much attention. One thing I do think is interesting is that you guys said it was darting around and then that it was streaking across the sky, right? So my question to you is, because you guys saw it, right? Well, you saw it. Tristan isn't here. Is darting around in a sense like, could you see streaks of light in between where it was moving? As in, like, was it moving like this, or was it like almost teleporting in a sense where it was here and then it was here?
Well, Tristan said it was. I didn't see it darting personally.
Okay.
Tristan saw it longer than I did, but it was basically moving in separate directions, like just all weird. Like it wasn't like a shooting. It didn't look like a shooting star because it didn't like go in one direction.
Right.
He told me it went from left to right to multiple different directions. Like just moving in sudden motion. And, a plane doesn't do that. A helicopter doesn't do that. Shooting stars don't do that. And it's just like, it was the weirdest thing. But, I mean, that's awesome that you saw that, too. I mean, shooting stars, and the thing is, I'm getting a little sidetracked. Thing is, shooting stars aren't that rare, guys. Quit trying to make wishes on them. You just got to look in the right part of the sky and look when there's a meteor shower, okay?
For sure. See, when we see things that are abnormal, there is always an explanation for them. I don't know if you've ever seen, there's this fantastic YouTube channel out there. This is a total promotion for someone who doesn't know we exist. But there is a fantastic YouTube channel out there. He goes by Captain Disillusion. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He is he's a fella who lives in Florida, and I think he's in his 30s, and he dresses up as a superhero, and it's hilarious. But the premise is he will debunk whether it's a alien video or a ghost video or something that is a lie or incorrect or I don't know if have you ever seen that video of the invisible car where a car is behind another car. It's a dash cam video, and they're both making a left at a light, and this car cuts them off, but you can't see it until the very last second. I don't know if you've ever seen that video, but that one kind of made the rounds on the internet, and he makes really well videos, sort of explaining those videos. He is also a visual effects artist, so he understands how to do some things, and he also does very in-depth research. Now, he hasn't done a lot of extraterrestrial videos that I can recall. He does a lot of paranormal ones and a lot of just sort of in general. There was one where it was like a guy thought his phone case, like the guy pretended that his phone case was a drone, like a drone phone case. But he disproved that. And I definitely, first of all, I highly recommend Captain Disillusion. Check him out. Great stuff. I mean, I binge watched all of them because that's just the kind of stuff I'm into. I'm such a skeptic that when there's a channel out there that goes into such great detail about how easy it is to fake these things with VFX, and it's not difficult stuff. There's that one, this is a pretty popular extraterrestrial video in, I think it was Haiti, but it was these two, it starts off with a woman gasping, and it's these two very obvious CGI, well, not CGI, they weren't CGI. He goes into detail about how they're not CGI. But these very obviously faked UFOs. And now, I'm not saying that every video that has ever appeared of
The
extraterrestrials
new
is fake.
ones nowadays, I don't really believe, because, I mean,
Right.
with technology nowadays, it's so easy to fake. I mean, honestly, I could do it.
Yeah,
It's very simple. You
it's
just
super
got,
easy.
you could just fake one with just chroma key.
Absolutely.
So that's why, I like the old videos and stuff like that from the 90s, 80s.
See, and things that are on, say, VHS or, older formats of video are honestly just as unequally trustworthy. There is this really neat musical artist. He goes by the name, or his name is Jack Stauber. I don't know if you've ever seen his work. It's interesting stuff, weird stuff. But what he does is he will take, so all of his video are in the style of VHS, but it's not an edit. It's an actual VHS tape effect from an actual VHS tape. So he takes a VHS recording and then makes it digital. I don't know how he does it, but it's incredible. It's some cool stuff. Check it out. But even if we just go on to the most basic idea of VHS tapes that we watch on YouTube or on Netflix are digital video that have been formatted to that proper format or reformatted to that proper format. So right then and there, they instantly become susceptible to anybody with a computer, or even back in the day with practical effects and old film, people still made fake stuff with old film techniques and physical film equipment. So, I mean, it's easy to let our imaginations wander, and honestly, there are some things out there that I really want to believe. I just think they sound so amazing and cool, but at the end of the day, if there's nothing to prove it, or it's just too good to be true, I mean, there's got to be some other explanation for it. So what we saw that night, I don't know what that could have been. It could have been a number of things. It could have been, in this day and age, there are lasers that are powerful enough that you can see in the sky at night. There are spotlights and things like that aren't physical flying objects. We perceive them as that. So I don't know what it was. I didn't get quite a good look as you guys did. I wish we could have recorded it. But, I mean, at the end of the day, we saw it. You guys saw it. So there was something there, whether it was a physical object or a light or something. We don't know. But that's okay, because that keeps conversations like this happening, and we can talk about that stuff because it is interesting, and it does pique my interest as to what that was that night, right? But I like to think rationally about things for the most part. I mean, as a teenager, it's difficult to be rational about everything, but I try my best to be rational, especially about things that are just, especially about paranormal things or extraterrestrial, or just a lot of those hoax videos online. There's that one of that floating city in China. Have you seen that one?
No, sounds interesting.
Yeah. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and pull it up on this iPad. It should still be screen recording. So what's great about this video is Captain Disillusion did a video on this one on how absolutely easy it is to fake that effect. He's not connected to the internet. I will not pull it up.
Wait, never mind. I'm going to let you go real quick.
Yeah, I'll wrap up what I'm talking about here. But what's great about the society we live in today and this day and age, no matter where you are in the world, you can fake it with a crappy computer. Like, it doesn't take crazy technology like it may have used to in the past. But nowadays, anybody can fake anything with some pirated software, So we really got to be careful about what we see and what we perceive to be true. And I just think it's important to be skeptical about things. And I'm skeptical about everything. You know that. I'm skeptical. I take that into my everyday life always, you know. And one thing where me and you differ is religion, and I know we're not going to delve into that. It's not what this podcast is about. But that's just another area where my skeptics get the better of me, and I just, if proof isn't provided, right, then why should I believe it, right? And I guess that delves into the idea of faith, and what we perceive as true is that can always be subjective. But anyway, I'm just kind of ranting now, so I'll let you go ahead and say whatever you want to say now. I'll give it back to you.
So I'm trying to figure out what to do with this iPad. So I forgot to do this, but I kind of wanted to draw what I saw that night.
Yeah, please do.
And so basically, we were just like looking up at the stars, and we saw this. Okay, that's not.
There's an undo option on the top left. Yeah.
Yeah.
So hopefully it's still screen recording, so people can see this.
Oh, that's good. All right. So basically, there was this blue fiery circle, and all I can explain it was it just this spot increased in size. So imagine it being like this big at first.
Right.
And then all of a sudden it's about the size, a little bit bigger of what the moon would look like.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden it just disappeared out of thin air. And this was a clear night.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So this is what it looked like in the sky once it exploded and it lit up the sky. So that's what I saw. And it was just really crazy. And,
right.
You know, maybe I'll get Tristan on here one of these days to
bring this topic back up.
Yeah, and the thing is, the thing with those videos is I don't even need to, you know, even if they're fake or whatever, my proof of or my belief of extraterrestrials isn't from those videos. It's from what I've actually seen.
Right. It stems from personal experience.
So, but I mean, with people, just eyewitnesses aren't enough. I mean, there's you know, it's just such it's a topic people have been talking about for thousands of years.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, there's depictions from long ago. I mean, that's one of the main reasons why people do believe in aliens too, and it's one of my reasons. I feel like it is proof of some of these depictions with Native American drawings. There's this place in Wyoming. I'm trying to remember where it's at.
Castle Rock petroglyphs?
I think so.
The one that's out in the middle of nowhere, and it's
it's on these red rocks.
These are like white rocks. It's like a dirt road, it's difficult to get there.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah, and it goes on for a bit, and it's like an old native tribe that was, I think it might be that. It may have been.
But there are depictions of these people they look like grays. They have the shape of a head of a gray, and then they also have these people that appear to have these helmets over their head, glass helmets like you'd see in a film.
Right.
Which is, you know, kind of a weird coincidence, but it is very interesting.
Oh, absolutely.
And, yeah, there's a lot of petroglyphs with things that look like extraterrestrials. And we haven't been able to prove animals that have looked like that, or maybe it could have been people with deformities. So, I mean, that isn't enough proof, but, I mean, I just have quite a bit of faith. And I hope it is extraterrestrials, because I think that'd be really cool. I actually want to be alive when they announce that they've found life somewhere or something's tried to contact us.
Oh, absolutely. Me too.
But I just have hope in these things. That's why I, delve in them. But,
one thing I do want to bring up is, well, I guess this is like 2 or 3 things, but sort of going away from fake videos, there are people who genuinely believe that they see things. Now, an explanation for them other than extraterrestrials is a number of things. I mean, it could be an illusion. It could be an optical illusion where lights in the sky appear when they aren't there. Like, think of in Iceland and places far north have aurora borealis. We can't explain that, right? But we don't say that they're extraterrestrials or that they're this or that. It's just it's an illusion or it's something to do with light and the atmosphere. And I mean, it's incredible. It's beautiful to see. But how do we know that stuff like that doesn't happen throughout the rest of the world? How do we know that these illusions don't appear? Light is weird, and our brains are weird. And not only do illusions happen that groups of people can see, but people also, I mean, our brains do weird shit to us. I mean, people, I'm not saying that everyone's a schizophrenic, but people can see things or hear things that aren't really there because of the way our brains work. And that doesn't, there's nothing wrong with you. It's just that's how it happens sometimes. I mean, it's happened to me, and I'm sure it's happened to you, Sean. And that sort of goes into paranormal stuff and whatever. But going back to extraterrestrials and ancient, whether it's hieroglyphics, petroglyphs, artwork or whatever, like you said, it could have been people with deformities. It could have been a number of things. I mean, people...
People actually, like Native Americans, use peyote,
Mhm.
which made
Yeah.
them hallucinate.
Right.
So maybe that could be a connection.
It could have been
Also like starvation, not having food for a long time
Mhm.
makes you hallucinate. Having water for not a long time
Mhm.
makes you hallucinate.
Right.
So
It could have been
Yeah.
that. I mean, it could have been a number of things, and that is one of the reasons I personally don't instantly assume extraterrestrials, because it just could have been, there are too many possibilities there. Why stop at that one? One thing I do want to bring up with ancient civilizations and groups of people is they had their own mythology and belief in these gods that, like, for example, Zeus and the Greeks, or Ra and the Egyptians. Those are gods that we don't recognize today as real, but as myth. And some of those people had, the faces of a bird and the ability to control the ocean. And so it wouldn't surprise me if a native group, whether it was in America or the Aborigines or whatever, could have possibly depicted these as stories, right? So, yeah, like stories, or maybe, like a bedtime story for one of their kids, or, I mean, it really could be a number of things. I mean, we really, it's difficult for me to say that it was extraterrestrials. And that's sort of where I stand with most things in general where we don't have a full explanation of them. I just sort of try and keep the options open,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know if I should bring it up in this podcast, but there are a lot of people that actually think I'm really crazy for me telling this story. But I have, like, a lot of nightmares and stuff about, like, abduction and stuff like that. And, I mean, that's another thing that enhances my belief. It's, I've always felt like, this is just my personal experience. And I think, if I say this, it will seem explainable why I believe in all this.
For sure.
Anyways, people for many, many years have been claiming that they've been abducted or whatever. I feel like nightmares and dreams and stuff like that are can be illusions of, like, what actually has happened to you at some point in your life, or I don't know.
Mhm.
Because I've experienced a lot of paranormal stuff with sleep paralysis and astral projection, where I've been actually outside of my body. I've seen my body while I was sleeping. It kind of looks like it's your soul coming out of your body. So, stuff like this is why I, believe in stuff like that. And, that's another reason why I'm somewhat religious, but not to go towards that. With the, abduction stories, I'm I'm trying to put this in a specific way. Uh, the stuff that I saw was so vivid and lucid to the point where it was real to me, and it felt like I was actually living through it. With some of these nightmares, I've woke up in intense pain, like extreme pain, like surges of pain, and it doesn't feel like any type of pain that I've ever had in my life.
Right.
And, you kind of get the same thing, people saying throughout the years, like this same old thing. But, I mean, I feel like the only people that actually, I feel like the only way for someone to actually believe in stuff to that extent is, if it's actually happened to them,
Right.
and it's just really weird stuff. I mean, I remember with these, like, vivid visions and, and the thing is, I also want to say, like, I'm completely, like, sober. I don't do drugs, don't drink,
Right.
don't do anything. I don't even have schizophrenia. I don't have anything like that. And I'm having, and before I slept, I'm not even thinking about extraterrestrials. I'm not surrounding myself in things that have to do with extraterrestrials. I'm not watching any TV shows. There's nothing that I've seen on TV that relates to it or looks like it. I've never seen anything on the internet that related to it around this time. But I remember the ships, how I was taken, where I was taken, what the beings actually looked like, what the interior of the ship looked like, what the exterior looked like. I kind of remember how they communicated. I remember what they were doing to me. It was just crazy.
Right.
And, when I woke up, I could feel pain from it. And, I feel weird talking about that story. I could talk about it. Like, that's just, like, the short thing. I'm not putting any detail in there, but I'm just, like, saying, like, that's all the stuff that I've gotten from it
Right.
over time. And, I'm always afraid to tell people that story because I feel like people are just going to, judge me and think I'm crazy. But,
Right.
I wish the world was more accepting of people that are different. You don't have, like, nobody has to believe my story, but I'm not trying to force it down anybody's throat, but I just like telling people my story, when I usually first meet people, when I'm, like, becoming friends with somebody, I tell them that story, and that basically makes me determine if they want to be my friend or not. It's
Right.
like, because I know in their head they're like, oh, this guy's crazy, or
Right.
this guy's cool,
Right.
And if they think I'm crazy, they're just going to go walk off, and, I'll find someone else to hang out with.
Right.
I guess that sounds kind of harsh, but that's a good way to determine if someone's, like, ready to experience my level of wacko.
For sure. Just touching on the whole dream idea and your story behind that and that personal experience, I've actually had this discussion with my mom a couple of times. She's a super spiritual person, so believes in a lot of paranormal stuff and all that. Different level than sort of. Oh, thank you, Gabe. Different level of not extraterrestrial in a sense, but anyway, she has these dreams and she thinks that correlates with real life. And so I did some research and we talked about it. And one thing that I found that was interesting about it is when we recall memories, especially in dreams, and we want it and we believe that it means something, or in your case that it was something that had happened. We don't tend to remember the whole dream, but our brain will fill in the parts of the dream that we want to make it seem like it was more memorable or more realistic or whatever. So, like, for instance, my mom had a dream about somebody having a heart attack, somebody specific in our life. This was years ago. I mean, I was a little kid. And I believe it was the next week that guy had died of a heart attack. And so, now, here's the thing was her dream of him having a heart attack and she just or was her dream about somebody dying, and then after he had died her brain went back and said, oh hey, that was a dream about him, right? So I mean, our brains do some weird shit to us all the time, and if it all depends on. I mean, there's so many factors to it, about what your brain does with memories and with dreams, and there's a whole science behind it, and it's difficult to grasp and to understand.
The brain is like so complicated. We don't even know everything about it. And yeah, what I was gonna say was, one, your mom needs to talk to me about this stuff because she seems pretty cool. I've only talked to her a few times. And two, actually, I feel like this is gonna be like one of the last things we're gonna like say.
All right.
Because like I think we're running out of time here. But let's see here. Yeah, one of the reasons why I just believe in all this is because, I think, that dream happened to me before, and then I saw these, UFOs with witnesses where people did see it with me. I mean, you saw some of it. Tristan saw more than I did. No, and that's not the only time I've seen UFOs. I've been near the river, and I've seen these darting objects that you can't even describe as being a plane or a helicopter, But, I mean, I feel, I just, yeah. It's a crazy thing to think about. But, I mean, I feel like in the next podcast I'll get into more detail about that type of stuff. Okay. What different people's perspectives are on it, because there are people that actually believe in like actual alien races that live out there that there's actually no proof of, but it's really cool stuff. For sure. But yeah, thanks for talking to me, Zach.
For sure, I always love doing that.
And me too. I love talking to you as well. But yeah, I guess I am going to wrap it up. My name is Sean Motsch, and this has been the first broadcast of the SMotsch Pit, or the Motsch Pit, or whatever you want to call it. So, thank you for listening, and hopefully you'll tune into more podcasts. Thanks.